Let's continue to see the privacy laws of financial data. There is a rule, safeguards rule. This one requires financial institutions to document a data security plan for clients' personal data protection. One more rule is protecting rule. This one addresses attempts by people to access personal information without proper authority. Act, Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act. So this act says anyone can request a free credit report every 1 year from each of the three primary consumer credit reporting companies. The three primary consumer credit reporting companies are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. So the security of data is very important. In this summer, data breach took place in Equifax. Many people were affected with the accident. In USA, there are about 300 million people, and in this data breach, about 143 million people were affected. We know children don't have credit cards, so for the adults, for the owners of the credit cards, I believe more than half were affected. Next one, let's see the privacy laws about the health information. One is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. This is HIPAA. This one improves the portability and continuity of health insurance coverage, reduces fraud, waste, and abuse, simplifies the administration of health insurance. Under the HIPAA provisions, healthcare providers must obtain written consents from patients prior to disclosing any information in their medical records. Thus, patients need to sign an HIPAA disclosure form each time they are treated at the hospital, and such a form must be kept on file with their primary care physician. In addition, healthcare providers are required to keep track of everyone who receives information from a patient's medical file. One more act is the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. This contains provisions for electronic health records. This act bans the sale of health information, promotes the use of audit trails and encryption, and provides rights of access for patients. Privacy law for children's personal data. So first one is Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA. This one assigns certain rights to parents regarding their children's educational records. According to this act, we see this is a federal law. This law assigns certain rights to parents regarding their children's educational records. These rights transfer to the students once the student reaches the age of 18, or if he or she attends a school beyond high school level. These rights include the right to access educational records maintained by a school, the right to demand that educational records be disclosed only with students' consent. The right to amend educational records and the right to file complaints against a school for disclosing educational records in violation of ERPA. So if you are in elementary school or middle school, if your parents wants to see your scores, so you need to give your scores to your parents. But if you are over 18 or in college or higher level institutions, you have the right to keep your scores. You don't have to release your scores to others, including your parents. The school must keep secrets for the students' scores. The school cannot share your score to anyone else without your permission. So if you apply for another school, you get your transcripts from this school, and then you mail your transcripts to another school. So you share your score to another school because you apply for the admission, and you are willing to give your transcripts to another school. So that's fine. Next, let's see electronic surveillance. FISA, it is a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. This one describes procedures for the electronic surveillance and the collection of foreign intelligence information. So, foreign intelligence is information related to the capability, intentions, or activities of foreign governments or agents of foreign governments or foreign organizations. The Act allows surveillance without court order without the United States for up to a year unless the surveillance will acquire the contents of any communication to which a U.S. person is a party. If a U.S. citizen is involved, judicial authorization is required within 72 hours after surveillance begins. The Act also specifies that the U.S. Attorney General may request a specific communications common carrier to furnish information facilities or technical assistance to accomplish the electronic surveillance. Next act, Title III of the Olympus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act. This one regulates the interception of wire and oral communications. This one allows law enforcement officials to use wiretappings. This is also known as the Wiretap Act. So this one regulates the interception of wire or telephone and oral communications. It allows the state and federal law enforcement officials to use wiretapping and electronic eavesdropping, but only under strict limitations. Under this act, a warranty must be obtained from a judge to conduct a wiretap. Next one, Electronic Communications Privacy Act, ECPA. This one is a protection of communications while in transfer from sender to receiver, protection of communications held in electronic storage, and prohibition of devices from recording, dialing, routing, addressing, and signaling information without a search warrant. There are some terms regarding this act. So one is NSL, National Security Letter. This one compels the holders of personal records to turn them over to the government. Under this act, the FBI director or someone acting on his behalf may issue a national security letter, that is NSL, to an internet service provider to provide various data and records about the service subscriber. So what is internet service provider? It is what we said ISP. So ISP is an internet service provider such as AT&T, Dish, Charter. They are all ISPs. If FBI provides the NSL to the ISP and request internet records from the ISP for some people, and then the ISP needs to provide the information to FBI. Okay, or more term pen register. This one records an electronic impulse to identify the numbers dialed for outgoing calls. And type and trace records the originating number of incoming calls for particular phone numbers. Next one, the Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act, CALEA, required the communications industry to build tools into its product for use by federal investigators after obtaining a court order to intercept communications. Next is the USA Patriots Act. This is uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. This one increased the ability of law enforcement agencies to search personal records. There is a term NSL gag provision prohibits NSL recipients from informing anyone that the government has secretly requested an individual's records. This chapter has a lot of acts. We learned the FISA. Now we learn the amendments of FISA. This one is Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act Amendment Act. This one granted NSA expanded authority to connect international communications as they flow through USA telecom network equipment and facilities. So a few months after the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, President George W. Bush signed a presidential order that secretly authorized the NSA to monitor the international calls and emails of people inside the United States without court-approved warrant. The New York Times reviewed the warrantless eavesdropping program in late 2005 after an investigation that lasted over a year. The Bush administration and other advocates of the program argued that it was necessary to disrupt the terrorist plot and prevent further attacks within the United States. Under this program, the NSL began warrantless eavesdropping on people in the United States who who were linked to names and phone numbers found in terrorist computers, cell phones, and Rolodexes seized in various Central Intelligence Agency, that is, CIA, overseas operations. Warrants were still required for eavesdropping on strictly domestic U.S. communications, say phone calls from someone in Atlanta to a person in Los Angeles. The disclosure of this secret program triggered 3 years of heated congressional debate that ended with Congress passing the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act Amendment Act in 2008, granting NSA expanded authority to collect without court-approved warranty international communications as they flow through USA telecom network equipment and facilities. So everyone knows 9/11 in 2001, the terrorist attack took place, and then the president asked some government agencies to monitor the international calls and emails of people inside the United States without a court-approved warrant. And then there was a debate. So someone were in favor of this action, but someone were against the action. And later, the FISA Amendment Act was enforced. The next one, fair information practices, sets of guidelines that govern the collection and use of personal data. Transporter data flow of personal data across national boundaries. Okay, next one, fair information practice. Organizations for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, international organization that aims to set policies and agreements on topics for which multilateral consensus is required. Next one, European Union Data Protection Directive. This one ensures that data transferred to non-European Union countries is protected. European Data Protection Regulation enforces a single set of rules for data protection across the EU, eliminating the need for costly administrative processes. Okay, next one, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. This one grants citizens the right to access certain information and records of federal, state, and local governments upon request. Requests must not require wide-ranging, unreasonable, or burdensome searches for records be made according to procedural regulations published in the Federal Register. Privacy Act sets rules for the collection, maintenance, use, and dissemination of personal data kept in systems of records by federal agencies. Prohibits U.S. government agencies from concealing the existence of any personal data records keeping system. So we learned a lot of acts about data, about the privacy of data. Okay, next let's see the key privacy and anonymity issues. The four are the issues. data breaches, electronic discovery, consumer profiling, workplace monitoring, advanced surveillance technology. First one, data breach. This one caused by hackers breaking into a database, such as what I said, the data breach of Equifax in this summer. So hackers break into the database of the credit card company, failure to follow proper security procedures. So normally, this kind of data breach take place because the IT workers don't follow the proper security procedures. So there are many important security procedures. If for example, the database specialists don't follow the procedure, such as share the administrator's ID and name and password to others, or don't back up the database or disclose the passwords to programmer, or in the program, the database administrator give more permissions to the programmer, so they are all the failure to follow the proper security procedures. For example, many programmers are writing programs. So the programs are the web page programs. So the web page programs will use database inquiry language, SQL. We'll use SQL language. When the web page run SQL language, the web page needed to include the role of the user who uses the SQL language. For example, someone writes the section to, for example, to sort the users by time, by year. So the database administrator assign the permission to order the database records, but do not assign any other permissions, such as delete the database, such as update database. So the programmer who writes a sorting program can just use the permission of sorting, but not any adding, deleting, updating permissions. But if the database administrator is lazy, he give the full permission to what kinds of programmers. For example, some programmer is handling the sorting, someone is handling the updating, someone is handling the adding actions. So the database specialist, that is the database administrator, should assign different permissions to different types of the programmers. But if he is lazy, he assigns the full permission to any programmers. So his work is easy, but some programmer have more permissions, and then they can do some bad actions, and then the data breach probably take place. So it is very important to follow the proper security procedures if you work in a company. Okay, next, Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act. This one mandates that within 60 days after discovery of the data breach, each individual whose health information has been exposed must be notified. So if a patient's record was disclosed to others, and then the patients must be notified. Electronic discovery, collection, preparation, review, and production of electronically stored information for use in criminal and civil actions and proceedings. Electronically stored information, ESL, any form of digital information stored on any form of electronic storage device. So nowadays, many information data are saved electronically in the electronic storage device. E-discovery software help analyze large volumes of ESL quickly, simplify and streamline data collection, identify all participants in an investigation to determine who knew what and when. Consumer profiling, this is the information about the web surfers can be obtained through the use of cookies and tracking software. When you use the internet, you open your web page, you type your ID and password to log in. In many websites, so if you type your ID and password to log in, the next time you don't have to retype your ID and password because they are saved as cookies in the website. So if you don't want to save your cookies, you can clear your cookies from the internet browser. If you use your private computer, I believe everyone prefer to save the cookies, so you don't have to type your ID and your password every time. Tracking software, you don't know, you may not know the software, but the software is in your computer, or the software is in the web page. For example, if you want to buy a car, if you search a car in Google, and then if you open some other web page, the advertisements of cars will be displayed to you. For another example, if you ever buy something from Amazon, and then you will receive some email about this kind of merchandise in your Gmail mailbox. Criticism, personal data may be gathered and sold to other companies without the permission of consumers who provide the data. And the next one, workspace monitoring. The Fourth Amendment does not limit how a private employer treats its employee. So some employer monitor the employee. The monitor is not only the monitor of taking videos, but also for other kinds of monitoring. For example, an employee install the camera in the workspace, and then from the camera they know how the employee are doing for their work. Or if the employee is working, they don't need to, the employer don't take the video, but they use a software program to monitor the keyboards. They monitor if the employee is using the keyboards. You know, someone is working at home, so when the employees are working at home, their employer wants to monitor if they are really working, or Actually they take a rest at home. So some employer install a software program, and if the keyboards of the computer has no any event, such as the employee does not touch the keyboards, and then the employer knows the employee is not working. So at least the employee need to touch the keyboards at least once every hour. So if the employee is out of home to go shopping, to go fishing, so they cannot touch the keyboards, and then their employer knows they are not working. Camera surveillance. This one is to deter crime and terrorist activities. The criticism is may provide leeway for abuse and blackmail. Domain awareness system joins the efforts of the New York Police Department and Microsoft. Goal is to combat terrorist activities and reduce the time required to respond to an incident. And the next one, vehicle event data recorder, EDR. This one records the vehicle and occupant data for a few seconds before, during, and after any vehicle crash severe enough to deploy the vehicle's airbags. Purpose to capture and record data to make changes to improve vehicle performance in the event of crash. For use in courts of law to determine what happened during a vehicle accident. Stalking app, a cell phone spy software that can be loaded onto a cell phone or smartphone, performs location tracking, records, views the text messages sent or received, and records the URL of any websites visited on the phone. This is the stalking app. Illegal to install the software on a phone without the permission of the phone owner. So if someone installs the stalking app in others' smartphone without the permission of others, it is illegal. Obviously, this is illegal.